All right, welcome everyone to this lesson in the learning series K8's Networking with Calico and Container Labs. And in today's video, we are going to look at how you can provision the labs provided in the Git repo. Now, when I'm learning networking, I like to provision my own labs. And in this repo, you're going to find a set of pre-configured labs for each of the lessons we're going to explore in this series. Now, the idea behind the labs is that you follow along the lab guide to understand the concepts, but you can also make changes to the labs, make it, break it, tinker with it so that you can internalize these concepts. And these labs are easy to provision in about 5 minutes or so. So let's get started. All right, so to get started, you're going to have a link to the repo in this video. Go ahead and clone the repo to a local folder. Now, once you've cloned the repo, you're going to see this folder K8 Networking with Calico and Container Labs. You can cd into that folder. And there's going to be a README file. So I'm going to just click on this README file and open it using a markdown preview in my terminal. So let me close this over here. Now, once you've cloned the repo, what you have to do next is download the Arista CEOS image. We're going to be using this image in several of the labs, and I have provided the instructions to download this image in this guide as well. This image cannot be distributed. You have to download it by opening up your own account. And there are some videos in YouTube as well with instructions as to how you could download this image. I've gone ahead and downloaded a specific image. You could change the image version as well, but at least to start off, I would recommend that you download this specific version because the deploy scripts in the labs do reference the image with the full image name. If you download a separate version, you will have to go and change or modify the deploy scripts to reflect the name of your image. Okay. So in my case, I've already gone ahead and downloaded the image from the Arista support portal. So I can copy this from my download directly and add the image to the Containerlab folder. So if I expand this folder, this is where we have all of the labs. And now you can also see the image that I have imported into this folder. Okay, so once you have that, this folder has a deploy script. So I'm going to make it executable and I am going to run the deploy script. So this script is going to provision an EC2 instance in the cloud and then configure that EC2 instance with container labs and the tools that we will be using in the subsequent lessons. Okay, so let's look at the deploy script in the directory. The script is going to do a Terraform apply to provision the infrastructure. We will be provisioning an EC2 instance. And once Terraform has completed, it's going to retrieve the IP address and then run an Ansible playbook to deploy the tools that are needed to run these labs. And once the playbook is complete, it is also going to copy some files from the local folder from the repo to this EC2 instance and then provide you with an SSH terminal, right? So pretty straightforward script. Now, if I look at the Ansible main.tf file, we are provisioning, VPC, internet gateway, a public subnet, and an EC2 instance. In this case, I'm using a T3 2x large instance, and we will provision the instance with our public key so that you can use your private key to SSH into this instance. Once the script is complete, it's going to log into the instance and provide you an SSH terminal. If I look at the Ansible playbook, we have a set of tools and dependencies that we will be installing: Docker, curl, TCP dump, Container Labs, which we are going to use as the platform to provision our labs, Kind to deploy Kubernetes clusters, kubectl, K9s, my favorite terminal tool for Kubernetes, Docker, and certain other settings, user settings as well, so that you can run the labs in this EC2 instance, right? So in my case, the script has fully executed. It's taken about 5 minutes, and I have a terminal into this EC2 instance. Okay, so if I just clear this terminal, I do an ls, there's going to be a folder called Containerlab. If I cd into this folder, I'm going to see all the directories for the labs we will explore in the subsequent lessons. So basically, the script has gone ahead and copied this directory into this EC2 instance. Now, we will have another video where we go and explore the structure of each of these lab folders, but very quickly in this video. So for example, if I want to provision a lab, I can cd into the respective lab, and each lab folder you're going to have a deploy script, and you can run this deploy script. Let me make it executable first. And you can run this deploy script to provision the lab, and each lab folder is also going to have a README file with the lab guide so that you can follow along, right? So that's how you go about provisioning the EC2 instance and then provisioning individual labs for this learning series. Now, if you don't want to use the cloud, you could also provision the same setup in your home lab. What you have to do in that case is in the deploy script. So if I go back to the deploy script, let me close this guide. Instead of providing the IP address of the EC2 instance that Terraform provisioned, just remove all of this from the script and point the Ansible playbook to an IP address of one of your servers in your home lab, right? That way you can provision these labs in a on-prem home lab environment as well, okay? All right, so let's go back to our lab setup here. It's going to take a few minutes to complete provisioning this. All right, so my lab after a couple of minutes was successfully deployed, and once complete, it's going to spit out this command as well to export the kubeconfig file. And after you export the kubeconfig file, you could run commands like kubectl get nodes, and you have your cluster provisioned, and you could do all the good stuff playing around with this setup. Now, the idea is that, once the lab is deployed, you follow along the lab guide, the video series, and, each lab folder has the README, which is the lab guide essentially. And there are commands, there's diagrams, so you can follow along to, understand and learn these concepts. And once you're done, you could provision multiple labs as well. And if you want to tear down a lab, there's a destroy script that you can run. So let me make it an executable first. And you can run the destroy script to tear down the lab. And if you want to tear down the EC2 instance, you could exit from the EC2 instance, and there's a destroy script in the root of the directory as well that you can run to destroy the EC2 instance and destroy the cloud setup. So as and when needed, you can deploy the lab, and once you're done, you could make sure you destroy it as well, especially if you're running in the cloud. Okay. All right, so that's it for this video. In the next video, we will look at each of the lab folders and look at the structure of the lab guide so that you understand the files that are used to provision individual labs. I hope you enjoyed this one. I will see you in the next one. Bye for now, and thanks for watching.